Yeah, good morning, everybody. Such a pleasure that you came here on the second day. There was a risk I would be late as well because the first day was so packed with things.
But I was lucky, and I wanted to start with something good, something happy, what would happen to the world in 5 years. And yes, I need a clicker. Thank you. It's very difficult in the morning, you know. I even have notes, so please forgive me because it's the morning of the second day. It's really hard to collect your thoughts. But I hope I will be able to bring you what I plan to do. So let us start with the meme. I hope it will run. Robert, create a symphony. Robert, turn a canvas into a piece of art. And you? Can you do it?
Ну вот, короче, на текущий момент
Well, currently, there is a continuation of this meme where the robot would answer yes on both questions and the human would answer no to both of these questions. It's a movie 2004 called I, Robot, and it seems that technologies changed a lot and it's actually great, and we'll speak about this today. So once again, my name is Sasha. My task is to automate different processes, information security, using technologies of machine learning. And besides that, I also work with colleagues, and I tell them trends in technologies, how they change, what new technologies appear, and how those new technologies can affect the work of these colleagues. So, for example, 5 years ago, when I said that some areas might disappear, and people would say that I'm just saying random things, no idea what I was talking about. But now, after these 5 years, when you say that artificial intelligence would change something, people might think it's actually quite reasonable. They would keep silent, they would think, ponder about it.
Даже в каком-то смысле верят в это. Вот. И дошло
In a way, they actually believe this might be true.
Коллеги просят не автоматизировать их так быстро. Мне очень приятно,
When colleagues
что коллеги
tell me happy birthday, they also tell me, please do not automate our jobs too fast. And to be honest, I'm very honored that they think that it is me who affects everyone's jobs. But I'm just looking outwards, looking to see what's going on. Even though it's very, very hard to track the volume of information we have all over the world. And currently it's actually okay not to be able to track all the new things that happen all the time. And with all this surge of technologies, I would like to talk to you about how the work of a developer would change with the advent of these new technologies. Here should be voiced a disclaimer. Obviously, it's my personal opinion, subjective, and the facts I will be talking about obviously support my hypothesis, so it will be a little bit biased. But this is because I really want, I personally really want technologies to affect our life to a higher degree. I want them to basically permeate our lives. And I will share some of these ideas and hope that during the discussion we'll be able to maybe talk about this a little bit more. Now I would like to ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's a standard question from an interview. But I would like to rephrase it. And what do you think? Will developers write code in 5 years? By raise of hand, please show if you think so. No, wait a bit. Actually used Copilots before. Do you know what a Copilot is? No, fewer people. Have you used ChatGPT? Oh, okay, so we have people here. So you believe that no? You think that programmers would actually write code in 5 years? Well, okay, sure, yeah. Okay, let's see. Maybe you're right, maybe you're correct, maybe not. Maybe I'll change your opinion. So, when did this start globally? All those smart helpers and co-pilots for developers. I think the first one, let's say the first point, was Emacs. In 1979, it became a whole system, ecosystem for developers. It had a lot of modes, a lot of comments for developers. It supported macroses. And currently, it seems a little bit unreasonable, let's say. But in 1979, like 50 years ago, it was rocket science. It was a breakthrough. And for a younger generation at that time, even for younger generation currently who will be watching this later, I would have to say that it was okay to debug a code using a paper. So it's great that they didn't have to use stones and pictograms, at least they used paper. And currently people use EDE, debugging, and looking really attentively and closely. That's very different from what we have today. Second version in 1979, VI, it was absolutely amazing, just insane. New version with using buffer, using command mode. People were able to go outside this command mode. And those two releases, those two versions were considered just basically a breakthrough at that time. In 2024, we had so many LLMs, large language models. You need more hands to count how many LLMs we had in 2024. But in 50 years ago, even two versions like this were basically a miracle. And the next point on our time map was something by Microsoft, IntelliSense by Microsoft in 1997. I'm not sure how it works currently, but in 1997, like 25 years ago, 27 years ago, it was basically a rocket science again. It was very, very good. By 2010, if you remember, we already had Git, we already had great, at least good EDEs, IDEs, we had Agile, good automation, and then there was no stopping for the advent of new technologies, for new co-pilots, because processes changed, you had to scale up, and obviously we never had enough people, so we needed machines. And by 2015, there was a certain number of smart co-pilots, smart helpers that assisted developers, but truth to be told, they were not really great. There was a number of different projects, and I remember Kite. I used it in Visual Code. There were attempts to automate development, to provide assistance, but unfortunately, developers of that time faced technological dead end. With the technologies available at that time, let's say 9 years ago, it wasn't actually quite a while ago, but it was impossible to solve the problems using that technologies at that time. And unfortunately, the people who faced that disappointment, and now they can see new tools, they do not want to use new tools because they have this disappointment from before. They already had disappointment 10 years ago. They do not want to experience the same disappointment or even greater disappointment now. That's why they do not want to use new tools. Fortunately, in 2017, the machine learning had another breakthrough. They developed transformers. As you can remember, recurrent networks, LSTM. Then people asked themselves, what would be the more efficient way to do so? The majority of recurrent networks were used for machine translation.
ученые, да, прикладные ученые думали,
scientists, researchers
этот машинный
thought,
перевод улучшить,
how would you
как
use
появилась
this and how to improve this machine translation?
но это еще не
And thus we
трансформер,
got
но уже
sequence to
очень
sequence.
близко.
It was
Потом
not a
ребята
transformer,
придумали
but it was
такую
really
штуку,
close to
как
it.
attention,
Then
которая
they
очень,
created
вот,
attention,
именно эта штука, она сделала такой
and attention
вот,
was basically the
этот
breakthrough.
энкодер с attention
It was an
назвали
auto-encoder,
на
and then it was called a transformer. Based on this transformer, we had an EBR. It was basically a generative model that could generate and solve multiple problems. And based on BERT, basically a transformer, we had this modern contemporary LLMs. Well, it wasn't like they were large, but they were language models. It became very efficient, and currently it seems that it will not stop. It won't stop. It will be only going on and forward and forward. In 2003, Sequoia, an investment agency, Sequoia Capital, created this interesting AI development map that will be published in our community, positive development community. So what this map is about and why should we care about it? Maybe it's not really clear to see, but you'll be able to see it later, especially if you use the QR code. On the horizontal line, we have some development processes, some stages of the development, and on the vertical line, we have groups of different tools. On the leftmost column, we have the classical classical tools for developers or DevOps administrators and participants of the process, where they can completely control the process. The middle column is where they have ML technologies, AI technologies that support people, and on the right we have completely AI-powered tools where you just basically delegate all the functionality to the machine so that you can fully automate the process you are currently involved in. This is 2023. I haven't seen the same or similar development map for 2024, and I believe that my personal vision on the tools might be a little bit narrow. So it would be great if the whole community would update this AI development map. If you use some technologies, some tools for your work and they are not present here on this beautiful picture, please leave a comment and maybe we should and could update this map. I think it will be great for the whole community. And the post will be published in about 7 minutes.
Это как бы полный процесс разработки.
This is the whole development process.
Состоит работа программиста, ну, как такового.
What are the components of a programmer's work? What do they do on a day-to-day basis?
На 3 исследования.
I will use 3 studies as the foundation. These are different. One of them from CodeSignal, Developers and AI Coding Assistant Trends. The second one from GitHub and from McKinsey. Survey reviews AI's impact on developer experience, and they had great methodology. I highly suggest you read the whole reports. Signal and GitHub have surveys, so they asked a lot of programmers how contemporary technologies affect their work and productivity, how effective they became. But McKinsey instead created a lab and they put a certain number of developers there and they actually measured their productivity and efficiency of their work, let's say, when they were performing some tasks without using AI and with using AI tool. And in general, I must say that their numbers at the end are more or less the same. At the end, we'll have the general output, the general metrics at the end. So what do you think was the final number? What was the increase in productivity for developers who use AI tools? Maybe just give me a number in percentage. 40%, 20%? 10%, 150%, or 146%, yes, the magic number.
So
what are the components of a programmer's work? Just so that we are on the same page. Here are the main stages: writing code, testing, debugging, code reviews, meeting, collaboration, documentation, environmental setup and maintenance. Obviously, developers have to get into the project and educate themselves, but this is more about cognitive load when developers just enter into a project. But most of the times we have these 6 stages, 6 parts, and this is what developers do most of the days. 25% of the work is dedicated to writing code, 20% to testing and debugging the code, 15% to review code. Obviously, we have a lot of sync, like meetings and collaboration and talks, spending time to write documentation and set up environment and maintain this. Obviously, this is the average numbers, but we need some numbers to just to have some calculations. And based on the previous surveys and research, it turned out that GitHub says that writing code can be increased by 55%. It sounds great. Testing and debugging can be decreased or improved efficiency by 30%, code review by 20 to 25%. Still, there are problems with meetings and collaboration stage. Maybe developers would want this part to be automated, but unfortunately, it's quite hard to do so. Maybe it's an idea for a good startup. Writing documentation to 20-25%, environmental setup and maintenance to 10-15%. And with very simple math, like basic math, if we decrease the percentage but do it correctly, we will have that different numbers at the end: 19, 14, 12, 20, 8, and 9. And I would say this is the lower bound. GitHub had 50%, but in other services it was 25%, and that's why I took the minimum numbers here. Just let's consider the worst case scenario. And currently, the minimum number at least increased by 20%. This is what surveys say. Using AI tools will improve their work at least by 20%, and it can improve their work by 60% if we use like really good AI-powered tools, and developers can actually use those tools to their potential. So the question, why is this percentage so low? Well, I do think it's a very good question. Let us get back to developers. They are not very happy with the current technologies. And this is the reality. On the one hand, it's the memory of 2015 or 10 years ago, where people didn't believe that this work, the technology, they were very sad, they were disappointed. And now the people who were disappointed 10 years ago will not use these new technologies now. There are a plethora of different reasons why they won't use new technologies. For example, the answers are not always very high quality, and it's true. You don't always like the answers given by a co-pilot. You don't always have the context for the co-pilot. For example, we have a very complex project with very complex architecture, and co-pilots can have real troubles to understanding this context, or even having this context. Now, the questions regarding the confidentiality and security, these are also very important, especially not everybody can use cloud tools. And in this case, developers try to have some kind of of local LLMs to use different plugins, and obviously local LLMs have lower quality compared to cloud solutions. So if you cannot use like the real copilots, you use the substitutes, and those substitutes are not really good. And finally, in order to get good result, you have to give the good prompt. And that's a very good point. People are not very good at formulating their ideas and thoughts. I think everybody had this in their life. Sorry, it's very hard for me to write, and we should have a 15-minute call. Well, if it's a 15-minute call, you could actually write what you wanted to say. But some people cannot formulate their ideas, and that's why they want to waste 15 minutes of your life. And then it turns out it wasn't 15, but it was 13, or maybe even a whole hour, because you do not understand that person, and that person has problems with formulating their thoughts and ideas. There are some technical limitations, of course, that prompts have to be very precise. And some colleagues, our colleagues say that, oh, your ChatGPT is not very good. I actually tried it, and the result was very underwhelming, at least, to say the least. And you would want to help, and you ask, well, maybe you can show me the prompt, and you look at this prompt and you have no idea how they could get anything good from this prompt. I think that's a very good reason why. Still, LLMs have different syntax, and that's a fact. And you have to spend some time to actually learn how to use good prompts. It's a different skill. And the specificity of this work is a little bit different. It will never be perfect on the first try. You have to fix the prompt, you have to add things. And it turns out that we wanted to remove the cognitive load from developers. But developers not always have very well-developed prompting skills, and they just redistribute this cognitive load. So instead of wasting time on writing code, they have to waste time on writing prompts, and they still have to develop this skill. And in different communities, there are lots of discussions on why co-pilots are not great. But truth to be told, prompt engineering is not good. That's why co-pilots are not good. And models also developed. Maybe they tried something else a few years ago. Models changed, and they have not updated their opinion. So what happens if we improve prompt engineering? In many different projects, for example,
GPT-инженер, клевый проект на GitHub.
There's a great project on GitHub. You can see it on the screen right now. And it was said
ребята сделали такую тулу,
that they created a tool
просто генерит код.
That doesn't just generate a code, it creates the whole project with the file structure.
И ты просто этот проект можешь запустить.
And you can just run this project. There are so many videos on the internet where it actually works. There are quite simple programs, but they still work. And everything you have to do is write a prompt, specify what modules you want, what kind of result you want to get. And fortunately, this program can specify some things, what you meant by writing this and writing that. Still, you have to describe this prompt. And because of that, it becomes very complicated. And in a sense, there are many people who were not able to create this kind of project with this high quality, so that it will be generated by Copilot completely, and you will just have to click the run.
То есть получается, что вот если у нас
And it turns out that with the development of generative AI, we have more new co-pilots. And it seems that prompt engineering would be a skill of the future for developers. I'm not sure if you agree with this or not. By raise of hand, show if you agree or not. Well, a few people are. And who refuses this idea point blank. 1, 2, well, it's interesting. Let us discuss this later. Now we have two potential areas of development. There are people who refuse this idea completely, and I think it's fine. And for somebody, this becomes the main skill. Who are these people? Obviously, we have students, we have younger generation. And if we are talking about 2030, in 5 years, then the students who have ChatGPT available now as a technology, other technologies, some kind of alternative services. And for them, it's very easy to learn how to use them, to get this skill. And in 5 years, the market will change. We will have a number of developers who will have prompting as one of the main skills. And the industry will either have to accept this because it will not have other developers. Obviously, this is simplification, but still, this might be the future. Probably we will still have a very high demand on developers. Or maybe people will have to learn this prompting skill because you actually have to communicate with developers, and developers have to solve problems and so on. And in 5 years, we'll be 5 years older, but the younger generation with new skills will be very, very close by. So the question is very reasonable and very timely. In general, it's not just one trend of prompt engineering. We can see the development of low-code solutions, no-code solutions, and another new thing which appeared just recently is a natural language development. Later I will give you some examples. And this tendency is supported by Y Combinator. For example, they have a list of topics, some areas for potential startups. And Y Combinator, a famous accelerator, they provide potential areas for interesting startups, most of them about artificial intelligence, and about 30 to 40 topics just for you to get the scope of an idea. About enterprise, about automation, about writing code. So even if you think that this is some kind of bullshit and prompt engineering, you don't have to learn this, you don't have to study this. This is a useless skill. But people actually want and people are ready to invest in this. So will people write code in 5 years? Well, even now we can see the trends, and accelerators are ready to invest in these kind of projects. And I would want this artificial intelligence be, let's say, maybe we actually create artificial intelligence for this purpose. Maybe it was that AI we are afraid of, maybe in development too. There's a great study, there's a great research which I really love, like from DeepMind. It was published in November last year. And I think there were not many significant changes since that time. And they talk about the path towards AGI, artificial general intelligence, the AI everybody's afraid of. They formulated that kind of AI so that AGI, AG, is something that's better than 100% of humans just in general, and single out two important directions. The first one is an ability to solve a problem by AI. And the second is it has to be autonomous. They have great examples, and we'll speak about the code. At the basic level, the person is the participant of the process. Second level, they are a consultant, AI as a consultant. If you are not an expert in some topic, then artificial intelligence will assist you. But If you are an expert,
скорее всего, вы будете лучше.
probably you'll be better.
Кстати говоря, то есть вот на каком
by the way,
уровне сейчас
what's the current level of these technologies?
что ChatGPT, он
It is
находится
considered that ChatGPT is at the level 2.
времени, да, у нас что-то
There is some time
чему-то подучиться.
for us to learn a thing or two from ChatGPT. And obviously, level 5, it's AI as an agent, 100% better than any expert. And this is just a generalization, just a simplification. And the guys ask, what would we do if you just decompose it to different areas? Are there areas where AI is better than a human,
100% людей.
than 100% of people?
Как вы думаете? Ну, что-то, может быть, вспоминается такое? Подсказывают финансовые, ну, интересно.
Okay, it's nice. So I'm going to give you a couple of more hints. The generation of content, medicine, chess. That's right. Absolutely right. That's right. Thanks very much for reminding me that.
На самом-то деле, вот у нас...
In actual fact, playing chess doesn't actually make much sense in terms of human competition, because we already have type of applications that are AI-based, that are 100% better.
Вы за этим следили, может быть,
and you may be following that
известная штука.
trend, and it's a quite obvious and famous thing. In actual fact, if we decompose this thing into certain areas, reaching those levels that we considered becomes much more realistic. And we already thought about using AI and using that in cybersecurity. In April,
autonomous racing гонки, ну, то есть
the autonomous racing
автомобилей
was staged in Abu Dhabi. The autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles, obviously, the full-size Formula One racers and cars were introduced there with the introduction of the former Russian pilot. And that race went quite smoothly. They did it for the first time. They did have a bunch of fails there, but that was an obvious thing. The F1 driving actually splits into people who drive, into pilots who are going to be much faster than anyone else, and autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars that will compete with human beings and be equal with them. So maybe we just need to make AI write prompts on its own. So how can we train people to do the same thing? You see, everything changes. Do you remember that first meme about the snowfall? It's very difficult to follow the articles, but we do remember that, don't we? And we are fortunate enough to notice yet another trend. That's the concept of chatbots and AI agents. Globally, this works as a technology, yet a lot of technological leaders, like the IBM leaders of the AI platform, single it out as the best solution. So if we see what's the difference between the chatbots and the AI agents, if LLMs
работа с информацией через LLM, да, то
are all about more focused information, that AI agents
программные решения, да, про автоматизацию
are software solutions about automation of certain business processes, so that we make sure that these business processes run autonomously and universally. Going back to the trends I mentioned, prompt engineering is a skill of the future. Seems like the low code is growing and no code, and it seems very natural. These things are becoming natural, and I'm mentioning nothing new here. even if we take a look at the development in progress, and we will see the compilers, the operating systems springing up, and machine code. Everybody would be using machine code for writing code. It's not convenient, and top-level programming languages were developed. We have much more lower-level programming languages and more abstract ones, and the ones that you can interpret.
Языки программирования, люди стали
писать
какой-то типичный код и начали объединять в фреймворк.
Done with people.
Зачем делать то же самое?
Are combined into frameworks. So how can we use this approach if we can use libraries? Then people understood why we need to write the code if they have very typical things. And we have different low-code solutions and more typical solutions, and then no-code solutions like Tilta. We can create a landing, then we add CRM to it without actually writing any single string of code, and it will work. And the natural language-based programming, when you can manually just write which kind of service you would like to establish. Yes, it does look like a prompt, but it definitely looks like a good solution. They're not extremely complicated as services. They describe all the components in a natural language, and basically it looks like a very fun to use service. And the code is generated there, so it looks great, I think. Followed by more examples, of course.
Да, вот. В целом, как пример каких-то технологий, да, вот.
As an example of certain technologies, you may take a look at them as very cool things, to be honest with you.
Тогда возникает вопрос, да.
But then there's a question. What are we going to do with security? If this code becomes a typical solution, and the no-code solutions that are based upon natural language, they look like similar-looking blocks of the same code. Sooner or later, the hackers will find vulnerabilities, but the programmers will also brush these vulnerabilities up and make it work better. So what follows the automation of this development is bringing a much more positive impact on security of the systems overall, because the performance of the developer actually grows and the numbers prove it. The quality of the code is also growing, I mean on average, of course. It's very difficult to follow the security-related items, especially in development. This particular development track fixes our attention on this topic much more than any other one. And this problem actually grows, and it's going to be much more difficult to resolve. The standards are being made much more regulated, so it seems like there will be fewer problems with cybersecurity, right? So people know seems like that there will be more applications that will become much more safer.
Инфраструктуры, которая лежит за no-code, кажется, все еще нужно...
But this infrastructure, which is behind the low-code, should be followed much more closely and monitored very thoroughly, because it's a very complex thing.
Я перестала переключаться. Вот. И глобально...
I'm going back to my slides.
Какие-то итоги, что вообще делать с этим всем.
A quick summary. What we are going to do about all that? It seems like the developers' activities, as they are likely to be changed, are highly likely to be changed. There will be lots of green flags to follow that prove that it's going to happen. We would like to drift away from WIM and become integrated with co-pilots. By the way, what about WIM? Is there any integration with ChatGPT co-pilot, for instance? Do we know about that? Co-pilot, ChatGPT integration? If you know something about that, please let us know in the chat. So it would be very nice to find out. I think the prompt engineering is the thing that we need to read every once in a while and practice this. The AI tools do not look perfect these days, and they do not tackle a lot of hardcore tasks. But there's obviously a trend that in every iteration they become better. So I think if we go back to 2015, seeing technologies crashing and becoming in a deadlock, but overall the humankind and the researchers keep on thinking about how to move away from the deadlock. So it's inevitable the situation will improve and it will change for the better. I'm done, basically. And it's a very important disclaimer for you. To make this presentation, I did not use ChatGPT, so please be much more loyal to what I've said, and thanks very much for listening. Okay, let's give a hand to Aleksandra. The number of people have grown here. Seems like the guys have woken up here and they are ready to some interactive work. I would like to explain the format we use here. The QR code on the screen is serving the purpose of evaluating the speaker. And also, the following QR codes will be used to send questions to the chat and become friends with our Telegram bot and maybe come up with a more tricky question to the speaker. Sasha, I have decided for myself, listening to a presentation, that over the next 5 years we will have a job to do. But in 5 years' time, we are waiting for you here to cheer us up about some future changes. We're preparing for our interactive questions, and I have a question to you. A manager may have a dream. A manager may have a dream where I see in this dream, I enter my office space, I open my reports sent by my direct reports, and I see the metrics proving that our service works great, and we have stopped a lot of hacking activities and intruders. I have a question to you. Why do they need you in this chain? Okay, let me explain. I'm looking through the list of ideas, I remember them, and I go home. So the question is, how long do you think it will take, many dozens of years, that we will see absolutely virtual testing teams where the developers, DevOps, UX experts will be completely replaced by artificial intelligence? When do you think it's going to happen? I think we need to split it by tasks, more difficult and typical ones. There's a full development cycle that may be completely automated. But the trend you've mentioned does exist. It depends on a company, of course. It depends on the company. But the trend is obviously there. Part of those jobs will definitely be automated, and you as a manager will no longer be needed, I guess. Well, it seems like it's a question for the next 5 years, but what about the expert evaluations in years? How many years do you think it's going to take? Well, let's take Elon Musk, for instance. As an expert, he says that by 2029, AI will be much better than 100% of the people on the planet Earth. Well, it would be nice to find out. I think we'll get here together in 2029 to check this out. That's not me. I just refer to the statements of the greats. Thank you. We've prepared this interactive discussion. I mean, not discussion, but some questions that we would like to ask you. I would like to ask some questions to the floor, and we will give you the mics. If you really would like to say something, please raise your hand. We'll give you the mic. The most pressing question these days: which jobs do you think and which skills cannot be replaced by AI in the near future? So do you think near future is 5 years ahead, 10 years, 15 years? So, okay, let's take 2034. We'll come here, and what is not going to be replaced by AI for sure? Are we going to give microphones to the people over there? That young man. So I think the plumbers will remain. It's not possible to replace the plumbers. Wow, in Japan and Korea there are robots, cleaners for public toilets. It impresses a lot. They clean the public lavatories. The infrastructure is changing there as well. I'm not talking about plumbing as it is, but I think such steps will also be made, and it will be automated as well. I think I would take a different look at it. We have a barista in our office, and in the future there will definitely be a barista. But in cyberpunk reality, you put these VR glasses and you'll see a virtual barista joining you there. Next question, right? Working with people will be irreplaceable, and it will be a highly paid experts. Partially it's true, because there is a big trend. This online education is a great trend. In 2016 and 2017, a community was gathering, discussing whether online education is suitable for us. Seems like that's not going to be high-quality education, but very affordable. But some superb experts will become much less accessible for general people, and they will become much more highly paid, and the society will be divided. So we need to think about what we're going to do about that. By the way, anything else you have to add? And for the best answer, we'll reward you with this nice-looking T-shirt. I would like to ask you a question. What impressed you over the last time? I mean, in terms of the AI technology, what have you been impressed the most? I've been impressed by how quickly people stopped Googling on their own and they start using their chat GPT. Plainly, that's what I was highly impressed with. OpenAI and the generation of video. It's superb. Well, it's not quite clear. That's some closed testing. They show the video, but it's not in the public access. Maybe they hired some motion designers and they try to trick us with that. I'm sure that there is everything good with that, but so far we don't understand whether it's going to be available for the masses. It's not a very simple technology. It was with prompt engineering, and they can stipulate which kind of video they would like to see, and the videos they generate, they are great, they are super cool, but will a simple Joe be able to generate the same thing? We don't really know. What I was impressed with are the systems that are going to completely replace the developers. Over the recent months, there was a preview of the Davian system that promises
разрабатывать
to develop
потом с обратной связью
products
при ошибках каких-то
like people do, and with some errors it recompiles it and regenerates this into code. It's the Copilot workspace.
Говорится, что сможет полностью
On
генерировать
GitHub it says that it will fully generate the solutions,
это, сможет его принять.
and people, by just looking at them, will be able to accept the solution, and that's what threatens me, that it partially develops, partially replaces the developers. It's not working great these days yet, of course, and the quality is not that great. But it's likely to become a replacement for developers. So this very acute question, which I need to ask right now, I must ask. What if in 5 years the developers will be replaced by AI? Do you have a B plan? Do you have plan B, by the way?
Безусловный доход, я слышала, по крайней мере, в России еще как бы...
Certainly. We don't have this permanent income where you don't have to work, but in Russia it's still quite dubious. Your next question, please. I saw a nice picture, developer's career, when a person, a developer or something, started working as a developer, then went to team lead, high top-level architect, and the final 7 years he would be just feeding geese on a farm in the state of Colorado. Because that's what AI cannot do, feeding geese and breeding geese in a farm. Sasha, what do you think about that?
Тоже были темы, когда там вдруг интернет...
I think there were topics. What's going to happen if the internet shuts down?
А потом такая, блин.
Maybe I should become a taxi driver. Then I thought, no, it's not going to happen. I heard 5 years ago from some taxi drivers in a month, the three of them, that the taxi drivers will be replaced by self-driving cars, when Tesla was shouting about that. So it seems like that they are on the edge of that as well. Let's take a look at Chinese automotive industry. They have become much better. And in Russia, they're not replacing passenger cars with self-driving vehicles, but commercial vehicles. It's commercially beneficial. And what startled me as well was that agricultural thing. We started getting much more self-driving tractors. But if we go back to the cybersecurity topic, if you take tractor drivers wouldn't want to pay for their tractor licenses, and they break their tractors just to keep on doing their work, which is also an interesting thing to notice. I would like to invite Aleksandr Boldarev here for the couple of final remaining questions from the chat bot. We can't hear. Please turn it up. Unfortunately, we can't hear. Okay, now we can hear. This question relates to the automation of the AI. For example, the creation of the autonomous systems that can be beyond the control of people and be potentially dangerous. What measures do you think are going to be taken to avoid such scenarios in software development?
Искусственный интеллект создает программы, которые...
Artificial intelligence creates software that may potentially breach security. Thank you for your question. We can continue discussing it in a bar, if you like. But to take a general look at this, starting from day one, everyone is afraid of this technology going
останавливаются...
Berserk, remember Terminator movies, for instance.
Шнур из розетки.
Pulling the plug is an easy solution to fix that. And the DeepMind article, this autonomicity is explained. If we pull the plug for the devices, this system is not actually autonomous. But what about Skynet that spreads all over the place and affects all of the computers, and you cannot just simply pull the plug, as you put it. If we do not fantasize, if we just take a look at the data, there isn't such a trend in progress. People think about much more grounded things. Maybe there will be a black swan springing up, which will conquer everyone and make everyone slaves. But if you take a deeper look at the research, such things are not being developed these days. A question from Vladimir Bugarkov. What do you think about prompt engineering? Is it a very short space of time before it learns to become aware of business analytics and the documentation? We discussed that part about prompt engineering. Everything is about this formula. And we take a look at the generative models that generate images. We can actually see that the work with prompt engineering, with the models that generate images, has become much better. Even if you've written a very bad prompt, still a high-quality image will be generated for you, and you'll be able to use it. So the majority thinks about this. Agent systems are going to be improved as well, but a little bit later, I guess. It's much more likely that Elon Musk will fine-tune his microchips and will come up with the idea, and everything will be done just perfectly. And we will live in a perfect world. One final question, please. It's a short one. Is there a life after AI? And which profession, which job you will have to do after that? Sasha? I think the skills of machine learning are becoming a baseline. It's just like when the developers are learning the bubble store, the black and white. You just need to learn how to base your solutions upon data. About life after AI, such nice people as Elon Musk would say that the work after that, when everything is automated, will become a hobby. So I think this obvious steady income will also become more prevalent. You just need to read about it. There are different social systems like socialism and capitalism. I guess a third solution will be introduced, so the society will have to be changed after.